History, as they say, is written by the powerful. But what happens when that power is born from absolute helplessness? What happens when a boy, abandoned by his own people and left for dead, doesn't just survive, but decides to rewrite the rules of the world? This is the story of how a childhood forged in betrayal and starvation created a new kind of leader, and how that leader built the largest single land empire in history. He was left for dead on the unforgiving Mongolian steppe. At just 8 years old, the boy who would become Genghis Khan learned life's cruelest lesson: loyalty is fragile and power is everything. But that trauma didn't just create a ruthless conqueror. It forged a leader with a different kind of vision. This is the story of how an outcast used his pain to build an empire on ideas that still resonate today: meritocracy, unbreakable loyalty, and a vision that would unite a fractured world. Before he was Genghis Khan, the universal ruler, he was a boy named Temujin, born sometime around 1162. His early life wasn't one of promise, but of brutal survival. When he was only 8, his father, a minor clan chief, was poisoned and killed by a rival tribe. In the harsh world of the steppe, a clan without a strong leader was a death sentence. So their own clan, the very people who should have protected them, turned their backs on Temujin, his mother, and his siblings. They were cast out, left to fend for themselves in a wilderness that offered no pity. This was his first and most profound lesson in betrayal. The bonds of blood and tradition, supposedly sacred, had proven worthless. His family was thrown into desperate poverty, surviving on wild roots and whatever small animals they could hunt. This period of isolation didn't just harden him, it sharpened his mind. His mother, Hoelun, taught him the critical importance of alliances, not based on noble titles, but on shared purpose and trust. He learned that survival depended not on who you were born as, but on who had your back. He was hunted, captured by a rival clan, and forced to wear a wooden collar like a common animal. Yet, he escaped. Every hardship, every act of cruelty, became fuel. The powerlessness he felt as a child ignited an unbreakable will to build a world where security couldn't be so easily taken away, where it was forged not from birthright but from strength and absolute loyalty. This wound, this deep-seated memory of abandonment, would become the blueprint for his entire philosophy of leadership. The world Genghis Khan grew up in was run by aristocrats. Your family name was your destiny. It decided your rank, your power, and your future. It was this exact system that had left him for dead. The nobles of his clan had abandoned him. So, when he began his rise to power, he made a revolutionary decision. He would burn that system to the ground. Genghis Khan created a genuine meritocracy. He tossed out the old rules of inherited privilege. In his army, promotions were based on 2 things only: skill on the battlefield and unwavering loyalty. This wasn't just a feel-good idea. It was a radical and practical strategy. He recruited the best people, no matter where they came from. Shepherds with a keen eye for strategy became generals. Men from humble, non-aristocratic backgrounds became his most trusted commanders. One of the most powerful examples is the story of a man named Jebe. In a battle, this warrior from an enemy tribe shot the horse out from under Khan. After the battle, Khan demanded to know who was responsible. Instead of hiding, Jebe bravely confessed. Instead of executing him, Khan was so impressed by his honesty and skill that he recruited him, gave him the name Jebe, meaning arrow. And that man went on to become one of his greatest and most loyal generals. This was genius. By rewarding talent and loyalty above all else, he attracted the most capable people to his cause. His army transformed from a collection of bickering clans into a unified, motivated force. Every single soldier knew that their performance was what mattered. They weren't just fighting for a leader. They were fighting for their own future, for their own chance to rise. The problem of aristocratic betrayal was solved by creating a system where betrayal was illogical, and loyalty was the ultimate currency. The Mongolian steppe of the 12th century was a place of constant chaotic warfare. Tribes were locked in endless cycles of raids, blood feuds, and shifting alliances. Disunity was the natural state of things. Temujin knew this chaos firsthand. It was the world that had almost killed him. To build something that would last, he couldn't just conquer these tribes. He had to fundamentally rewire them. He had to create a new identity. His solution was a masterclass in social engineering. First, he completely shattered the old tribal structures that were the source of all the conflict. He organized his soldiers into a decimal system, units of 10, 100, and 1,000, deliberately mixing men from different clans. A soldier's loyalty was no longer to his old tribe, but to his new unit and, ultimately, to Khan himself. If one soldier in a unit of 10 deserted in battle, all 10 were executed. This forged an intense bond of mutual dependence and responsibility. Second, he made loyalty fair and profitable. In most armies of the time, looting was a chaotic free-for-all. Genghis Khan banned all pillaging until after a victory was completely secured. Then he ordered all spoils to be collected and distributed systematically and fairly. A share was even given to the families of soldiers who had died in battle, and his own mother adopted many orphans from conquered tribes. This proved he was a leader who cared for his people, not just one who used them. Finally, he unified everyone under a single legal code known as the Yasa. While many of its exact laws are lost to history, its principles were clear. It demanded absolute obedience to the Khan and banned theft, adultery, and the destructive blood feuds. The Yasa applied to everyone, from the highest general to the lowest soldier, creating a sense of shared justice. By creating a unified military structure, a system of shared rewards, and a common law, Genghis Khan didn't just conquer a nation, he created one. Building the largest empire in history takes more than military might. It requires a mind that operates on a completely different level. Genghis Khan's early life of constant threat and uncertainty had honed in him a powerful set of psychological tools. He possessed an unshakable emotional resilience. Those who study his life note his extraordinary ability to stay calm and focused under extreme pressure. He didn't make decisions based on rage or impulse. His actions were calculated and strategic. This gave him a clarity of vision that his enemies lacked. He was also a master of psychological warfare. He knew that battles are won in the mind long before the first arrow flies. The Mongols became notorious for their brutality, but this wasn't random violence. It was a calculated tool. They would spread tales of their own ruthlessness to encourage cities to surrender without a fight, saving Mongol lives and resources. To those who submitted peacefully, Khan could be surprisingly lenient, often granting religious freedom and protection. He understood the power of both fear and fairness, and he used them like a master swordsman. Perhaps his most underrated skill was his incredible adaptability. The Mongols were nomads, but Khan knew he couldn't conquer walled cities with cavalry alone. So he became a student of war. He actively absorbed knowledge and technology from the peoples he conquered. He captured Chinese engineers and put them to work, learning their techniques of siege warfare, catapults, siege towers, and battering rams, and incorporating them into his army. He created one of the world's first long-distance communication systems, the YAM, a network of relay stations that allowed messages and intelligence to travel with unprecedented speed across his vast empire. He was willing to learn, adapt, and use any tool that worked, no matter where it came from. This flexible, pragmatic, and emotionally intelligent mind was his ultimate weapon. The results of these innovations were simply staggering. During his reign from 1206 to 1227, Genghis Khan conquered more land than the Romans did in 400 years. This foundation was built upon by his descendants, creating an empire that at its peak stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe, covering over 9 million square miles. It was the largest contiguous land empire the world has ever known. But his true legacy wasn't just the size of the map he painted Mongol. It was how he held it together. He brought the entire Silk Road under one political roof, creating an era of peace known as the Pax Mongolica, or Mongol peace. For the first time in centuries, trade, ideas, and technologies could flow safely from east to west. Gunpowder, the compass, and printing made their way to Europe, while Western ideas traveled east. He established a universal writing system and a legal code that, for a time, united a vast portion of the world. The empire wasn't just built on force, it was built on the revolutionary systems he had designed, systems born directly from the pain and betrayal of his youth. And let us know in the comments, what other historical leaders' strategies should we break down next? He wasn't born into power, he built it from nothing, using the hard lessons of his own survival as his guide. He turned the pain of betrayal into a system of meritocracy that rewarded loyalty. He transformed the chaos of tribal warfare into the discipline of a unified nation. He used the fear he had known as a child as a strategic tool to achieve his ends with ruthless efficiency. His story teaches a powerful, timeless lesson. Our deepest wounds don't have to be our weaknesses. They can be the very blueprint for our greatest strengths. Genghis Khan didn't just conquer the world. He redesigned it, forging order from chaos, strength from abandonment, and an empire from the will of a single, unconquerable mind. If you found these lessons from history fascinating, subscribe for more stories about the minds that shaped our world, and click that notification bell so you don't miss our next video.